Hey everybody, welcome back to the All Men. My name is Max Haddad. This is episode 40-something, and happy to be here. Hope you're doing well. So we tried a new format last week. I hope you guys enjoyed it, regular listeners. If you're a new listener, yeah, we're growing here, okay? Little Max Haddad decided, hey, you had a podcast for almost a year. Maybe it's time it turns into something more than just you complaining. So this is a podcast about stand-up comedy, my pursuit of that career goal. I love it. I do love it. But there's only so much I can say. I realized after 45 weeks of saying the shows were good, I decided it was time to mix it up. So this is a podcast where I take two news articles, and one from a left-leaning news source, one from a right-leaning news source, and I try to be your gray area, basically. And I try to do that because I am not capable of doing anything else. I'm too stupid. I don't have answers. Maybe I'm not stupid, but I'm definitely not informed. So this is my way of informing myself and informing myself and asking questions about the articles. It's how I hopefully help you guys come to some conclusions. You know, this is not a political podcast. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I really, to be honest with you, don't care much for either side. I think both sides of the equation look stupid almost constantly. And I don't feel helped by either of them. I definitely don't feel represented by either of them. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that feel the same way. So welcome. Today's article, just I'm going to tell you ahead of time, this is how it works. Tell you ahead of time, then I'm going to update you on my week, and then we're going to get into it. The first article from the left-leaning source is by the new Wonka film with Timothée Chalamet. I grew up, I don't want to talk about it too much ahead of time, but I grew up watching the original Wonka, the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is a great movie. I haven't seen it in years because it just, any movie where there's a lot of kids interacting with adults, like it's just other than like, just, I don't know, something in 2023, kids getting to go into a secret factory with a spooky adult is just way creepier than it used to be. And then speaking of creepy child-adult interactions, the next one is from Fox, and it's about an FBI interviewing some Catholic people. It's more specific than that, but you'll see. I don't read these articles ahead of time. I just read them as I talk to you about them, and I try to figure out how I feel about them. Like I said, me trying to figure out how I feel about them, I hope that it helps you learn something and helps you maybe ask yourself some questions and figure out how you feel about stuff. Last week was, it was more serious than I meant it to be. I probably picked two topics that were a little bit grandiose, a little bit out of scale for the first episode at least, but certainly for my, my basis of info. Like I was not well prepped to discuss them, but I still enjoyed talking about them. We talked about trans rights and we talked about the environment. Those are very broad topics. This is going to be a little bit more specific, and we'll fine tune this as things go on. But it was a good week. It was a good week. And you know what? I don't know how to do timestamps. I'll figure it out. But if you want to get to the article part, you can skip 20 minutes in, and then basically that's it. I'm trying to do it in like little 20-minute sections. 20-minute update, 20-minute first article, 20-minute second article. But some things never change. I got to ask you, are you vaping? Because more than this is a podcast about stand-up comedy or a podcast about what's going on in the world. It's definitely a podcast about getting addicted to nicotine and coffee, but mostly nicotine, and staying that way. Stay addicted. Don't ever change. It was a good week, really good week. I'm working on some new material that I'm happy with. But I've had this experience lots of times, and I bet a lot of comedians have had the same experience, but so I did a show it's a storytelling show. I did it last Tuesday. And the way that it works is I do it almost every month. It's one show a month. I do it almost every month. The theme of last week's show was the most blunderful time of the year. What a funny pun. Aren't puns funny? Aren't adults that tell puns as their only source of humor funny? Aren't those interesting people? And so it was about the holiday season. We're all white. We're all basically from Christian homes, even though we're not Christian. It's Christmas, but the holiday season, and some fuck ups around that time of year. And so I told a story about how when I was in active drug use, I ended up having Thanksgiving dinner with a family of, they were my neighbors. I was living in New York City at the time. I was in I don't know what story of this skyscraper, but And my next door neighbor heard me like high on meth playing guitar in my apartment. And they're like, let's invite him over. So they didn't know I was high. And they invited me over. I told that story. It was very awkward because while I was there having Thanksgiving dinner with people that I'd never met before, also very nice of them, right? Like very loving thing to do, invite your neighbor over, saying things like nobody should be alone on Thanksgiving. Not true. Hitler, don't care much for who he's hanging out with on any day of the year. Not a great pull, Could I come up with somebody better to pull that's a bad person? Yes. But I didn't, so there. But, he's dead. And I'm glad about that, by the way. That is the stance that this podcast takes on Hitler, is that we're glad he's dead. So, they brought up meth. Like, anyway, it was a whole thing. But I told this story, and I had like 12 minutes, not a long time, but I just recited this period of time in my life to the audience, and it went really, really, really well. It was probably the best I've done lately. I've been doing really well, but this was good. This was like, I don't feel comfortable saying I killed, and I killed. Like, I absolutely slaughtered. It was fucking great. It felt awesome. But here's the problem. I knew like that it went well enough that I'm like, okay, maybe this thing has legs for a non-storytelling show, like just a stand-up show, like a regular show that I do. But I knew that it went so well that it's probably not going to go that well the next few times I tell it. And it may never go that well again. Like you do in stand-up get sometimes the perfect storm of things, like just the right combination of people in an audience. You're in a certain mood, you look a certain way, like, and just you say a thing and it kills, and you can never get it to work ever again. And I'm not having that experience. But when I was telling it the first time, I was telling it just off the top of my head. Like it was a thing that happened. So I'm familiar with it. It's my life. And so I was being funny, but I was just being funny. Now, as I'm telling it, I'm fighting against it becoming this reproduction, Like I really try to never let the shit that I'm telling on stage be stale. That's kind of why I like to improvise so much. I like to do crowd work. And I don't like to do crowd work because crowd work clips are the thing. I still haven't uploaded any fucking crowd work clips. Like I liked to do this before it was the thing to do, because that's the fun part for me. The fun part is the stuff that's never going to happen again, So that, and oftentimes it's the stuff that just for me, it goes well. For some people, their material is the thing that they rely on. For me, it's like, okay, fuck my jokes. Let me just talk to the audience, or let me just say some shit that I've never said before. But I'm fighting against it now as I retell it, like trying to create a real bit out of it. Not, I'm cool with it being a little 10-minute thing. Like that's pretty long as far as jokes go. Certainly for me, it's pretty long as far as jokes go. Typically, the longest bit I'll have will be like 2 minutes. And even then I'm, it's a commitment. Like if you're telling a 10-minute thing, if they don't like it, you can back out, find a funny way to be like, well, fuck this, you guys don't like it. But I don't want to do that. I feel like I'm kind of giving up my integrity when I do that. So I want to finish it, and I want to salvage it. If something's not going well, I want to make it work. I don't want to just not do it. You know what I mean? That's one of the challenges of doing stand-up is I think this is funny. So how do I make them think it's funny? But now I'm telling it, and it's sort of becoming rote. Like I know the punchlines. And so as I'm arriving at the punchlines, I am very much acting. I'm not being just organic anymore. I'm recreating, and I'm such a dumbass for having this fucking TV on in the back. Why don't I just turn the TV off? I don't know what aesthetic I'm going for. I know some of you probably just listen to this while you're driving or something, but this is not a studio, by the way. This is my living room. I'm fighting this story that's becoming a bit. Now I'm fighting it becoming like, just old. Like I'm just feeling myself acting as though I'm telling it the first time. And that's not impossible to do. I do that with almost all my jokes. I try to present them as though it's the first time I'm hearing them even. But it is not doing as well. It's still doing well. Like every time I've told it, I think I've told it 4 times now. The first time was fantastic. And the other 3 times were good. They were good. Like it was strong enough to stand on its own, but it's not, it's definitely not killing. So some of it might just be that I'm holding it to too high of a standard, but I'm also like, but I know it can do that. I saw it do that. So how do I get it to do that again? You know? And I don't know that I'll be happy with it until it hits at least close to that hard again. Because it was really fun. It was really fun to tell. People loved it. And I certainly have plenty of jokes that are not about me. They're just dumb things. They're just dumb observations, or they're just silly things. But it is deeply personal. It's a story from some of the worst years of my life. You know, who the fuck wants to be high on an insane stimulant? Well, lots of people want to be high on an insane stimulant and having Thanksgiving dinner. That's like, although eating on stimulants is horrible. Horrible. Eating food while high on something like meth is like fucking somebody from a gender you're not attracted to. It's like, I don't do this. I don't want this. But yeah, I just fucking want it. I want it to be, you know, I want it to be what I know it's capable of being. And I can't just tell new shit every show. That's dumb. First of all, that's a cop out. Okay. Because then I'm leaning on something. I'm leaning on like crowd work and stuff, which is fine. I'm okay being the guy that does more of that than other people. But part of the art of stand-up is developing material, for sure. So I need to do it. I need to work it out. If it's not where I want it to be, I need to figure it out. And I like jokes when they figure themselves out, when they're just like, I tell them and they're done. Sometimes that happens. I have an idea or I have a whatever, and I say it one time and I'm like, oh, that's exactly how I need to say it every single time. Those are my favorite, you know, but that's just not reality. So anyway, so that's been going cool. Nice. Yeah, listen to me talk for an hour. And what else? I started doing an open mic, or I started hosting an open mic at the club by my house every other weekend. And it was good. And, you know, but there were 7 people in the building. So, you know, I'm not famous. It was good that, you know, like, I'm actually fine with there not being a lot of comedians there. That's fine with me. If you guys want to, you know, not everybody lives where I live. It's on a fucking Sunday. Like, not everybody wants to leave their house on a Sunday like that. You know, they might have been gigging fucking Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They don't want to be out on Sunday. Cool. If they go to open mics, they'll go on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, whatever. But like, and I actually almost might even prefer it, because then the people that do show up regularly, the comedians that want to be on it regularly, we all get to do more time. You know, a lot of times you go to an open mic and you do 5 minutes. For me, 5 minutes is not a waste of time at all, but I'm just like, not getting into the groove. I can kind of turn on immediately, but I'm rushed. I do feel rushed. The whole time I'm up there, I'm like, as soon as I take the mic out of the mic stand, I'm like, well, I basically need to put it back in right now. So I don't love that. So if we all get to do 15 to 20 minutes, that, to me, that's better, especially if you're trying to build an hour. You know, I like that a lot more than the little, you know, again, like getting to do a set that's longer than 5 minutes is allowing me to tell this story. I got to tell this story at the open mic. You know, if I went to the standard open mic around where I live, and even in the open mics around where I live are even, I would argue, are longer than most open mics, you know, 6-7 minutes, that kind of thing. When I lived in New York, the open mics you're getting 2 and 3 minutes, and 40 people are getting up on stage. So it just doesn't allow you to really like chew on something. And I need, the way that I am, I need to like be up there and be able to fucking sit with something and figure it out in front of people. So I like that. If that's what it turns into, that there's only, you know, 4 or 5 comedians and we each do 20 minutes, that's fine with me. Unless a comedian that bombs all the time decides to show up every weekend, then it's going to be awkward when I tell them, sorry, you get 5 minutes and everybody else gets 20 minutes. I mean, it's an open mic. You're certainly allowed to bomb. But like, I don't know. To some extent, I want it to be, it's an open mic. There's nothing prestigious or admirable about performing on an open mic, but like, you know, I would like it to be something that attracts non-comedians to come watch. So sure, I want you to work on new material, but I also want you to do a good job. I want you to be funny. And there were real people there. How many? 4, but I'm trying to think of the last time I went to an open mic around here. So when I first started doing stand-up again a couple years ago, I was only going to open mics. That's all I had access to. Nobody knew who I was in the area. I wasn't going to get booked on any shows. I wasn't like established at all. And I still don't feel very established, except at the club by my house, which I'm really, really grateful for, to be honest. They kick ass, and they've been very helpful to me. But nobody goes that's not a comic. So the fact that 4 real fucking people showed up at all, I feel like I'm doing better than some mics in the area already, you know? I don't like performing for comedians. I've certainly talked about this before, but it's just not the same. It isn't the same. A lot of times we're friends. You know where I'm coming from already. I don't have to navigate communicating a difficult premise to strangers. You get it. You know I'm not a bad guy. So if I'm saying something that might be upsetting, you know I'm not saying it just because I want to shock you. I'm trying to like make a point, or I'm trying to reveal something about myself. I don't know. So I was glad to see that real people were there. They even, bought tickets. I would never buy tickets to an open mic ever, but it's not my choice. So I don't get to decide. They're letting me use the space of the club. Totally understand that they want to sell tickets for this thing. A lot of times, if you have to, I'm actually being, sorry, let me be more clear. I'm being asked to ask comedians who are not paid professionals or regulars at this club to bring people to the show. That's called a bringer show. I never thought I'd be part of a bringer show. Fundamentally, I don't like the idea because it's always intended basically to milk new comedians, family and friend members. Friend members? Hello? Friends and family members. I'm a very stupid person. So, when I first started, I went to Crackers in Indianapolis, or Crackers Broad Ripple, which is in Indianapolis, and you had to bring 5 people. I don't know 5 people anymore. Luckily, I was 17 or whatever, and I don't know how old I was, 19 something. Luckily, I had friends in my life. I only know comedians now and family. So I'm sure I brought 5 family members, and they all had to buy 2 things. You don't have to buy anything at my open mic, that makes me feel better about it. You have to buy a ticket, but the ticket's $5, whatever. And if they're coming to support their friend, I think these people at least seemed very happy to be doing that. I was like, I'm really sorry. I have to ask you to buy a ticket. They're like, oh my God, don't apologize. You're fine. So hopefully that's how it always goes. I tell people ahead of time in the email, like, listen, this is how it is. You have to buy tickets. You have to bring people, but definitely putting me in my place as far as where I'm at in my comedy career, that I am hosting a bringer show. That's a humbling feeling for sure. But I got to look at it for what I'm trying to make it be, which is a productive experience for the comedians and a way for me to do stand-up 4 minutes from my house on a Sunday, So I'm happy that it's happening. But again, for the 1,000th time, stand-up really brings you up and then really kind of shoots you down sometimes. And I don't mean to sound pessimistic about this mic. I really don't, because it is a good thing. I am happy to be doing it. It is my choice. I wanted to do it. I'm glad it's happening. But I'm not a fucking, I might be technically a professional comedian, technically, but I've got no draw, you guys are my fans. I love you guys. I really do appreciate you. You guys have been with me since I just looked back at my old YouTube videos. So cheesy. Not even me. I think I was okay. But the thumbnails and the titles and the, capitalizing, this has got to stop. Oh my God, dude. I don't want to be a YouTuber. That's the thing. I really don't want to be a YouTuber. I'm happy to have content on YouTube because I think it is a useful platform. But I want to avoid the tropes like the devil. So just that you guys liked me even then, I really appreciate. And we're growing. That's what this kind of channel has always been about. Talking about not being a YouTuber, but then talking about my channel. Can't help it. That's kind of what this channel has always been about, is growing as humans. So here we go. We're 20 minutes in, basically. Article 1. Again, I will have these links, or at least the URL, in the description of the video. If you're interested in looking them up yourself, I'm looking at a picture of Timothée Chalamet. Maybe if I remember, I'll put it up here, or you could just see the movie. We'll see. See, I don't know if it's a good movie or not. I haven't read any reviews. I'm not going to see it. I'm definitely not going to see it. We'll see what this says. Okay, so the article is called Wonka Film Review. I became Asian for a second. Wonka Film Review. Relentlessly wacky and over the top, which is, and immediately, what did you expect? So it's a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie made in 2023. Did you think it was going to be a take on BLM? Timothée Chalamet stars, actually, that would make sense too, for 2023. Timothée Chalamet stars in a new prequel from the makers of Paddington 2. You know, that movie about a teddy bear that explores Willy Wonka's early years. Oh, great. We've all been wondering. Was he molested? Definitely. You don't wear that coat without some sexual abuse. It's a seriously sweet treat that is straining at every sinew to be the best possible family entertainment, writes Nicholas Barber. Not many of us have ever wondered about the backstory of Willy Wonka, the wizard-like confectioner. Well, wizard or slave owner. Did he have orange midgets fucking making his chocolate? He did. I didn't see him making anything. Was he the theory guy? Sure. Maybe he did the math behind the chocolate bars, but I saw little people making that candy. That's what I remember. I saw the first movie 100 times growing up. He didn't touch a piece of candy. Maybe he did. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did he touch a piece of candy in that movie? Not many of us have ever wondered about the backstory of Willy Wonka, and that's got to be hack, right? Talking about Willy Wonka being a slave owner, that has to be hack. If nobody's ever talked about Willy Wonka being a slave owner, I'm going to do that bit because it's perfect timing now that this is out. The wizard-like confectioner from Roald Dahl's classic 1964 children's novel, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Here's a question. Did Roald Dahl abuse children? Roald Dahl. Almost always children's authors have something weird about them. Did Roald Dahl hate children as much as the witches did? The dark side of Roald Dahl, he cheated on his wife. None of this is, I'm just reading titles of articles, guys. So don't take any of this as proof of the disparagement of Roald Dahl. He might have been a great dude. I'm not seeing anything about abusing kids. So good. You can read his books. But the film industry being what it is, a big screen prequel was as inevitable as Violet Beauregard's decision to try the forbidden chewing gum. That fat bitch. And so just in time for Christmas, we have Wonka. An unfortunate title, but what else were they going to call it? Why is it an unfortunate title? You wanted something more inventive? Why is that unfortunate? Am I missing something? Is there a reference that I'm not getting? It's a Willy and the Wonka. Willy would be a bad title. Willy is what 60-year-old golfers call their penis when they're like, I got to go behind the bush for a second. Wonka is his fucking last name. That's a perfectly fine name. It tells you what the movie's about. It's about Willy Wonka. What else do you need from a... That's what I want. What I don't like is when a movie title is like... It's about a fucking, it's like a revenge story. And it's just like, fucking 7... yellow birds. And it's like, what? Could you see how much I was struggling to think of anything? When a movie it doesn't tell you anything, Wonka's fine. The good news is that the film is directed by Paul King, co-written by King and Simon Farnaby, and produced by David Hyman. Hyman's an unfortunate, talk about an unfortunate, i.e. the team behind Paddington 2. You already said that. Having made one of the best children's films of recent times. All right, one of the best films of recent times, children's or otherwise. Paddington 2 was that good, huh? Okay. I am 32 and I live alone. I can't watch it by myself, but I'll take your word for it. I will not make it to 2024 if I watch children's movies alone. They were granted the opportunity and the budget to do whatever they wanted with Willy Wonka, and they didn't hold back. I bet they did. I have a feeling he still makes candy. There's a lot that Willy Wonka could do. With a factory that no one's allowed in or out of. There's an island, something like that. Anyway, and with a seriously sweet tooth may feel queasy before the end. Okay. The obvious route would have been to recount how Willy built his factory and persuaded the Oompa Loompas to staff it. Persuaded, quote unquote, unpaid work. But King and Farnaby have veered off in a direction all of their own. In their hands, Wonka is the tale of how the starry-eyed young Willy, Timothée Chalamet, tries to set up a chocolate shop in a fictional city. Sort of British, sort of American, sort of mainland European. What city was he? Wasn't he in England? which I understand is not a city. Wasn't he in London in the first one? It was very like Dickensian. Like it reeked of Oliver Twist, in my opinion. Like the scene in the first movie where the whole family's sleeping in the same bed. I mean, that's not very Oliver Twist because Twist didn't have fucking parents, but very like paupers, dirty, you know, chimney sweep, you know, ash all over their fucking face. But his efforts are opposed by Slugworth, Patterson Joseph, Prodnose, Matt Lucas, and Fickle Gruber, Matthew Bainton. The three businessmen mentioned in Dahl's novel as the rival sweetmakers who stole... Yeah, Slugworth came up in the first movie, right? Wasn't Slugworth an antagonist in the first one? I don't know if we ever see him in the first movie. I just feel like you hear his name. I could be totally wrong. The film's funniest characters, thanks to the actors' gleeful mispronunciation of half their dialogue. These three slimy snobs bribe a chocoholic police chief... Insert donuts for it to be more like real life. The article doesn't say that. Keegan-Michael Key in a fat suit to kick the interloper out of town. I know that name. What does Keegan look like? Keegan-Michael Key. Oh, yeah, duh. Okay, Key and Peele. Yeah, of course. Okay, but that's not all. A remarkable percentage of the running time is taken up by Willie being forced to work in a laundrette by two Dickensian. Hey, good word. I just used it. I'm with you. Grotesques played by Tom Davis and Olivia Colman, who, judging by her performance here, should really have been cast as Trunchbull in Matilda the Musical. You lost me. Oh, no, Trunchbull's the bitch that puts a kid in a fucking, what are they called? Iron Maiden, and makes him eat cake, right? There are also subplots in which Willie has to learn to read, borrow a giraffe from a zoo, find the parents of his streetwise sidekick Noodles. You're not going to be that streetwise if your name's Noodles. You're not going to make it if your name's Noodles on the street. And break into the villain's lair, which happens to be directly beneath a cathedral. All of these hijinks are heightened by the brightly colored stripy costumes, the Heath Robinson inventions, oodles of doll-esque wordplay, and a range of clever Berlin cabaret numbers and Broadway show tunes by Neil Hannon of the Divine Comedy. I don't know what the Divine Comedy is other than Dante and the you know, that laugh-a-minute comedy about traipsing through hell. There's also a generous helping of syrupy sentimentality. Between this and these two Paddingtons, it's clear that King likes his films to be more twee than their source novels. I don't know what twee means. I mean sentimental, I guess. Soft. So anyone without a seriously sweet tooth may feel queasy before the end. That's what that quote was referring to. Apparently it's really, you know, lovey-dovey. I mean, but it's like Charlie and the Chocolate Family was like kind of a family about movie. Fucking kill me, dude. A movie about family. It was lovey-dovey. And I understand that it is based on a book, but like it's a kid's movie. It's a Christmas kids movie, or it's a movie for kids released during Christmas. What do you want them to feel? I'm all for protecting children's joy in their youth. Like you've got plenty of time as you age and become an adult to feel miserable about world affairs and your life, and you're fucking single. And now I'm pulling from personal experience, single for 5 years. You all live with your dog. It's the only living thing you talk to. You know what I mean? Like there's plenty of time to feel bad. Like let the movie be twee, whatever that means. Let the movie be overly sentimental, saccharine. Overall then, Wonka seems to be straining every sinew to be the best possible family entertainment at cinemas this Christmas. It throws in everything, kitchen sink included. Again, no it doesn't. Okay? Is it pulling from the fucking Pianist? Are we going to see Schindler's List in the third half? The third part? Math. It's not throwing in everything. But what it doesn't have is one strong, gripping plot to build momentum and raise the pulse rate. It doesn't convince you that Willie's backstory ever needed to be told. Of course, it's not going to compare to the original. Of course it's not. Explain the tunnel scene, dude. Have we ever gotten an explanation? I'm going to look that up when I'm done reading this paragraph. The tunnel scene in the original Willy Wonka, was that just a symptom of the 60s and 70s LSD culture? I've not ever gotten an answer to that. I've never looked it up. It doesn't convince you that Willie's backstory ever needed to be... Slotting together bits from Mary Poppins, Sweeney Todd, well, all right. Just because it's Dickensian, to use it again, doesn't mean it's Sweeney Todd-esque. Are they slitting throats? Are they eating people? Oliver Twist and more besides, it's less likely a finely crafted chocolate gâteau than one of those selection boxes that contains several brand name chocolate bars, all wrapped in garnished plastic packaging. As it drifts back and forth between the laundrette and the city square, between the present day and mawkish flashbacks to the past, it doesn't quite get going. And it keeps you waiting for a moment that will make you gasp or laugh out loud. As so much of Paddington 2 did. This guy fucking loves that movie. I'm gonna have to watch it. Nicholas Barber, is that the guy that wrote this? Who wrote this article? I don't fucking know. Who wrote this? I don't know. They said Nicholas Barber earlier, but I bet I'm miscrediting that. You guys can check the link if you want. Loves Paddington 2. Clearly, he should just be reviewing Paddington 2 over and over again. Don't watch other movies. You don't need other movies. You just need Paddington. Chalamet, as talented as he is neither a great singer nor a great comedian. I don't know how I feel about people, and I do. This is ego here. I do get a little uptight when people use the word comedian for people being funny in movies. Writers, multiple writers putting together, a screenplay for you, and then you reading it 1,700 times in front of a camera until you get it just right is so different than live stand-up comedy. I'm not sure, how about a comedic actor, I wouldn't call myself an actor. Like when I am, as I told you, recreating that story, trying to make it seem like I'm telling it the first time, I wouldn't dare call myself an actor just because I'm acting. I don't think you're a comedian just because you're funny. There was a time when PewDiePie called himself a comedian, and I was like, you're a YouTuber. You scream at video games. And he hasn't worked out how to make Willie anything beyond a gurning goofball. Gurning. Again, this guy's got words I've never heard, and that's good. That's why we're learning. We're learning together. It's a relief when Hugh Grant shows up as a snooty, orange-faced Oompa Loompa called Lofty. But beware, it's a cameo appearance which includes precious few scenes that aren't in the trailer. Ah, okay. How are you going to get Hugh Grant to play a small orange person and only put him in for a minute? One aspect of the film which stops it being more enjoyable is that it's set in a world of pure imagination, as the song from the 1971 film goes. Dahl's novel bristled with the author's annoyance at the nuisances of contemporary life. Oh my God. And even Paddington 2 was concerned with the injustices of modern Britain. Get away from it, dude. They made a different movie. Oh my God. I'm glad it's not the same movie again. If that fucking Willy Wonka was just a teddy bear in this one, it would be insane. But just as one scene has Willy being carried over the city by a bunch of helium balloons, the film ignores the gravitational pull of reality. Relentlessly wacky and over the top, everything in it is too contrived to care about. Sure, and I will agree that the first movie felt real. That's what made the magic in it so fucking fun as a kid, is that, like when they first walk into the candy garden and you can just take whipped cream out of the fucking plants and shit. It just felt like if I was lucky, I would stumble into a candy garden. It was something that could really happen. It made the magic feel real. It being grounded in the quotidian made it feel as though it was something that could actually occur. And I loved that. So I will agree. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I could see why that would make it a little bit oh my God, overly sweet. Oddly enough, that even applies to Willie's creations, which look more like toys than sweets, and which have so many magical properties that their flavor seems irrelevant. I mean, flavored wallpaper, sure, but you turned a little girl into a giant blue circle in the first movie, so that's pretty fucking, I don't know. You could just give her septic shock, and I feel like she could swell up. It's a small point, perhaps, but there's got to be something wrong with the film about the world's best chocolate maker if it doesn't leave you with a craving to scoff some chocolate. I don't know if and that's the end of the article. I don't know if I watched the first movie ever and wanted candy. I actually only remember really wanting candy after watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when they were just eating the regular candy bars in the beginning, trying to get the golden ticket. That's the only time, because it was, I don't know, it was clear that the other, even though I said the magic kind of the suspension of disbelief did make the candy that you knew was fake seem real. I knew, like, I don't know, like, the idea of just, like, this big lollipop tree and you could just fucking grab whipped cream out of it. There was something even then I was like a germaphobe. I'm like, yucky, dairy out in room temperature all day? No, thank you. Is this a refrigerated garden? So I really didn't get cravings from the movie. I think I just the very real looking chocolate bar, probably the fucking Hershey's or whatever they took. It wasn't a Hershey's because they were in England or wherever again, but that they wrapped in, fake candy wrapper to make it look like it was Wonka brand. Because I don't think there is one in America, at least there is a Wonka brand candy, but it's made by Nestle, I'm pretty sure. And we're supposed to look up what happens in that tunnel scene. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. But it's not, it's just regular candy, is what I'm trying to say. Explanation? Too long, didn't read. Okay, perfect. Willy Wonka's tunnel is a form of security to subdue the id, the part of the human psyche which, according to Freud, is what causes the human mind to make impulsive decisions based on self-gratification, and what categorizes human beings as animals, as all living beings on Earth. Okay, well, that's a Reddit explanation. So we're going to go with that it's a Freudian security measure, I guess. In my opinion, I don't even know if it needs a reason. Do you even need, like... Couldn't he just be a fucking crazy inventor and he's like, hey, I made this tunnel that when you take a boat down it, you trip. I mean, there's some benefit to having a psychedelic experience that only lasts a minute and a half, People like salvia. I don't know if they like it, but they do it. Salvia is a nightmare, by the way. Look up people having salvia trips on YouTube and just sit back and be grateful that you're not having whatever experience they're having. I had a friend that would smoke salvia and think he was a sheep. Which at first you're like, oh, I'm a fluffy sheep. But actually you're like, oh, I can't speak English and I don't have fingers, Just weird and very intense. I only did it one time when I was really young and really stupid. And I was like, why would anybody do it? This is clearly poison. Even if it's not going to kill me, this is not to be ingested. Nobody's supposed to be smoking this. So what if he was just like, I don't know. You saw his hair. He lived in the 60s and 70s. Maybe he was just a pothead. And he's like, let's just have a trippy tunnel for a minute and a half. It's fun, I don't have space in this factory for a roller coaster, so I can have you go on hills in your mind. That kind of thing. My microphone is covered in hair. Anyways, I don't know. To me, this is not a movie. This has become a movie review. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with this podcast allowing for movie reviews. I thought it was just a news article about Timothée Chalamet, but hey, what are you going to do? Not a professional. Not Timothy. He's very much professional. I'm not. We'll go to the other one, but the Johnny Depp movie that came out, which they didn't mention once in that, by the way. That's how fucking horrible that Johnny Depp Willy Wonka was. That movie was so bad, dude. And it was bad, yeah, because you had expectations that it would somehow compare to the first. But it was horrible. It was like you needed Gene Wilder to be Willy Wonka. Like, I get it. He's being portrayed as a young person in this movie, but like Gene Wilder just did such a perfect job that, yeah, Johnny Depp. Oh, hold on. Let me pause my fucking male perfume commercial where I play a guitar solo for a wolf to record this. It's just not going to compare. Johnny Depp he can play a character. He can play a drunk pirate. Sure, he did that great. Nailed it. After that, in my opinion, every movie I've ever seen Johnny Depp in, aside from Pirates of the Caribbean, he was kind of just a boring guy that I was like, just get another white guy. If you want him to be a white guy, even, get anybody, but just get another white guy. Who cares? This didn't need to be Johnny Depp. At no point, like what was that, a Secret Window or a Little Window, whatever it was, all sorts of movies I've seen with him. It's just like, yeah, he's just a guy. Yeah, he read the lines. You know what I mean? I don't feel like his best portrayal in media for me was the fucking court case he was just in. That was fun. To watch him not give a fuck publicly like that was fun. he nailed it. But other than that, I'm like, just you're a drunk pirate or you're just a fucking guy that wears 8 scarves. I don't need you to be in every movie. But that was when he was really hot, so I understand why they would want him. Not hot as in I'm sexually attracted to him. I just suspect that he would want to be a top, and I'm very dominant in bed, and I'm not bragging. That's how I am. I wouldn't be comfortable being verse. So I think they probably wanted him because he was hot as in popular to be in that. So they would just be like, they're already going to want to see this movie because it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Now Johnny Depp's in it. People are going to freak the fuck out. And he did play this silly guy in, the pirate movies, but like, that's not who Willy Wonka was. Willy Wonka was not just a silly guy. He was actually very serious and stern and grumpy. Okay, so this next article is very different. I'm a little nervous to get into it because this could hurt some feelings. So the FBI is the title. It's on Fox News again. FBI interviewed priest, church choir director ahead of anti-Catholic memo, House GOP finds. Panel found no legitimate basis for the memo inserting federal law enforcement into Catholic churches. Well, I can think of some reasons to insert federal law into Catholic churches. Can you guys think of any? Let's play Blue's Clues. I spy a clue. Maybe we need cops in churches all the time. Especially when the choir is getting dressed. Okay, so the FBI interviewed a priest and a church choir director as part of its investigation into traditional Catholics. A House Weaponization Committee report obtained by Fox News Digital revealed, while determining that subpoenaed documents show that there was no legitimate basis for the memorandum to insert federal law enforcement into Catholic houses of worship. That paragraph went over my head. I have no idea what I just read. The House Judiciary Committee and the Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of Federal Government have been investigating the FBI's categorization of certain Catholic Americans as potential domestic terrorists. After an FBI Richmond internal memo titled, "Interest of Racially or Ethnically Motivated Violent Extremists and Radical Traditional Catholic Ideology Almost Certainly Presents New Mitigation Opportunities." Hey, whoever's naming your memos, word economy. That's horrible. He or she named the memo, "Interest of Racially or Ethnically Motivated Violent Extremists and Radical Traditionalist Catholic Ideology Almost Certainly Presents New Mitigation Opportunities." Almost? Who puts almost in a title? That memo, which was leaked in January, identified radical traditional Catholics as potential racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists and said that racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, RMVEs, and radical traditionalist Catholic ideology almost certainly presents opportunities for threat mitigation through the exploration of new avenues for tripwire and source development. Does anybody understand what I'm reading right now? But according to the report first obtained by Fox News, the committee found that the FBI abused its counterterrorism tools to target Catholic Americans as potential domestic terrorists. I don't know, is that Patriot Act? Are we talking Patriot Act? After 9/11, they tapped people's phones here. It was wild. It was a crazy time to be an American, and it still is. Trump's going to win. But I, are white Catholics, what are you afraid of? That's kind of, to be honest, here's how I always felt about my privacy being threatened by the government. Even when I was committing crimes, I had like nothing to hide. And certainly now that I've stopped, I'm like, dude, if you want to listen to how boring and dumb my phone calls are with whoever, like, okay. And I know they're not saying they're listening to phone calls here, but just, what are you guys hiding? And I understand your privacy is, I don't know if it's your right or whatever, but certainly you're entitled to it. When I think of Catholic, and I know that there are plenty of Catholics who are not white men, but just like, and I'm definitely not, I'm a white guy, by the way, if you can't tell. I'm not a like down with the white patriarchy person at all, but, poor Catholics. You have a country. Your religion has a country. You have a man in a dress that you think talks to God. Like, you've got something bigger than a king. Like, can we pick on you a little bit, especially if there's potentially some threat to everybody else? And also, even if this is bullshit, you guys have been hurting kids. The committee and select subcommittee discovered that the FBI relied on at least one undercover agent with some fucking dude. Instead of like going and pretending like he's in the mafia, he pretends he's Catholic. He just starts hitting his kids. It's convincing. Undercover agent to develop its assessment, and the FBI even proposed developing sources among the Catholic clergy and church leadership, the report states. Not only did the FBI propose to develop sources, but it already interviewed a priest and choir director affiliated with the Catholic Church in Richmond, Virginia for the memorandum. The committee said that whistleblower disclosures revealed that the FBI interview of a priest and choir director was used to inform on the parishioner under investigation. So we're talking one person? The committee also said that without whistleblower disclosures, the memo would still be operative in FBI systems, violating the religious liberties of millions of Catholic Americans. The committee found that there were errors, in quotes, made at every step of the drafting, review, approval, and removal process of the memorandum. Yeah, the error is you let people see it that aren't in the FBI. I like that when a government agency will be like, we messed up. And it's like, you're just saying we didn't mean to let you see it. All this is how you normally operate, except we saw it. That's the problem. That's why you're peeved. You're going to try to present this as like, oops, but you're just bummed that somebody who's not a government agent saw it. The report also states that the basis of the Richmond memo relied on a single investigation in the Richmond field office's area of responsibility, in which the subject, self-described as a radical traditionalist Catholic, I don't understand that. I ended that sentence with weird tonation because I didn't understand what I was reading. Sorry. Again, very stupid person that you're listening to talk right now. Here's the deal. I think most Catholics are probably on the conservative side. That's my guess. It's a pretty conservative religion. And I could see, just because some person, I wish they would tell us if this was a man or a woman, but some person that, okay, holy shit, Max, do a better job. 2023, if a conservative says, I'm a radical traditionalist or just a radical, that might just be their way of saying, like, I believe in marriage. They might be like, how some people, when they've been on top for a long time and their power becomes threatened, and they immediately start to act as like a victim, but also like Joan of Arc. Like, oh, I'm a radical traditionalist. Like that. Like, oh, I know you don't like this, but I actually go to church every Sunday for 3 hours. I'm a radical. Like they might just be talking out their ass. I would hope the FBI is not wasting funds on some fucking, what I'm now assuming is just a white guy that's pitying himself because he has to stop hitting his wife. But I don't know. I hope, but I don't trust any department of the government, really. But you guys know I've had a lot of experience with being investigated, certainly, but like the punitive side of the government. So the FBI, that sort of thing, I'm not a big fan. I don't really trust them to make good judgment calls on anything. Even so, this single investigation became the basis for an FBI-wide memorandum warning about the dangers of radical Catholics, the report states. While the FBI claims it does not categorize investigations as domestic terrorism based on the religious beliefs of the subject involved, an FBI-wide memorandum originating from the FBI's Richmond field office did just that, the report states. Under the guise of tackling the threat of domestic terrorism, the memorandum painted certain radical traditionalist Catholics as violent extremists and proposed opportunities for the FBI to infiltrate Catholic churches as a form of threat mitigation. Okay, infiltrate's too strong of a word. You can literally go there. Okay, you can go into a church. I can go to a church right now. I don't need to infiltrate. Yeah. Just act like you vote Republican and walk on in. Congratulations, you're infiltrating. But I don't see where they're... I mean, like, just because they say the word Catholic doesn't mean that they're saying because they're Catholic, that's why they're a threat to domestic safety, right? They're just saying that some radical traditionalist Catholics are domestic terrorists. Well, but then I guess why would they need to say that they're Catholic at all? You know, why not name other things about them? Like, they like the color purple, which we know that they don't, but they like the color purple. Like, why are you naming that? What does that have to do with them being a terrorist? But what is the domestic terrorist thing about? Like, I understand there's like some element of being a traitor to that you would be a traitor in your own land, like your own country. But to me, I don't differentiate between like a Middle Easterner coming over here and committing acts of terrorism and somebody that lives in fucking Omaha blowing up banks. To me, it's the same thing. They're a piece of shit, probably a broken person, first of all, then a piece of shit, and they're trying to weaponize fear. And they probably have some dogmatic belief system that justifies it in their head. I'm like, I don't give a fuck if they live in Texas, dude. Are they gonna bomb me? That's what I care about. But the FBI has denied conducting an investigation based on religion and has maintained that upon the discovery of the memo, it was removed from FBI systems. Again, as soon as we found out about it, they removed it. Because what they presented as is, oh gosh, that wasn't supposed to exist. We're sorry, we got rid of it. But what's actually happening is, oh gosh, we didn't mean for you to see that. We got rid of it, so you can't continue to verify anything. We did not conduct investigations based solely on religious affiliations or practices or any other First Amendment protected activity, the FBI said in a statement. You did not conduct investigations based solely on religious affiliations or practices or any other First Amendment protected activity. That's dumb. I'm okay saying that I don't like religions, but I don't think any religion fundamentally is like a threat just in and of itself, although Islam kind of sucks. But, you know, First Amendment protected activity, free speech, like, yeah, don't investigate somebody because they qualify for the First Amendment, but if somebody's speaking wild shit on a street corner, I think it's okay to investigate them. See, I'm weird. I am conservative in some ways, and I'm like, you know, go for it. Not that being conservative in some ways is weird, but like I just am kind of all over the place in my beliefs. I don't know if that makes me a centrist. I don't fucking know. But I'm like, yeah, if somebody's, you know, I'm all for them being able to say whatever they want, but don't not investigate somebody when they practice a wild version of freedom of speech. Like if they're saying crazy shit, investigate them. Don't do it intrusively, but like, you know, maybe find out if they're serious about certain things that they're saying. Not if it's on a stand-up stage, though, because here's why. Those are jokes, okay? To be clear, the FBI said the document was a domain perspective, which is an intelligence product designed to address potential threats in a particular area. In this case, the Richmond Field Office's area of responsibility. Because the product failed to meet FBI standards, it was quickly removed from all FBI systems. I wish you would tell us how long it was in the system, and a review was launched to determine how it was produced in the first place. What do you mean, dude? Find the person who typed it. They typed it. That's how it was produced. You're telling me that my FBI can't figure out who typed a letter? Hey, I wonder how 9/11 happened. On July 25th, the FBI produced a version, motherfuckers, produced a version of the Richmond document with fewer redactions than the two previous versions it provided. The version revealed that investigations into Catholic organizations in Los Angeles and Portland fed into the Richmond office memo. The report states that FBI Milwaukee was also involved. More to be said, but it's repeating itself. Yeah, no, never mind, not more to be said. It's just a bunch of ads for Christmas toys under it. And every ad has a woman in it with fake tits. So how do you know they're fake? I don't, but I could just imagine biting them and it would feel like plastic. I don't know. You know, I do want our privacy to be protected, but at the same time, like I said, I'm like, you know, I don't have anything to hide. Do you have anything to hide? I'm not embarrassed about anything I do. And even if I am embarrassed about anything I do, I understand embarrassment is typically a pretty temporary feeling. You know, look at my search history. It's yucky sometimes. That's all I can say. But other than that, you know, I don't know. If you're doing shit that you don't want the government to know about, unless your government is tyrannical, you probably shouldn't be doing that shit, right? I don't know. in the D&D world, I'm lawful good. Okay, I'm all for following the law, even though I've been to prison. Now I'm reformed. Prison saved me. Thank you, the warden. God, he was so good at golf that I got better. Not at golf, but at not using heroin. I just think like people are so sensitive about it. Like the FBI is so inept in the first place. What are you worried they're going to find out? Are you worried they're going to find out that you've been touching kids? Everybody already knows that, you know. Um, Honestly, and I didn't mean to make this just about this, actually, and we're almost done, so I'm not going to talk about this very long for multiple reasons. One, there's smarter people than me that have really dove into this and talked about it in an intelligent way, and I can't do that. Two, well, actually, this podcast is about me being dumb and trying to figure things out, so maybe I will talk about it anyways. But, like, I'm not trying to be this guy because this is kind of a hacky attack on the Catholic Church, but as long as it keeps happening, we need to keep talking about it. I would not be surprised if the Catholic Church was freaking the fuck out because they don't want anybody in their business. Because there is some wild shit going on behind the scenes in the Catholic Church. There's some gross shit going on. And it's not all involving kids, but some of it is. And certainly that stuff needs to stop. So, in my opinion, if all you are is a house of worship, as long as the FBI is not getting in the way of you worshiping in a reasonable way, like, you know, you're allowed to worship kind of however you want in America, within reason. And if that's all you are is a church, a house of worship. You guys are just praying and you're singing your long ass songs and shit. What are you worried about? Why do you care so much that the FBI is trying to investigate you? If anything, I feel like the American government has been on side. You know, how many of our presidents have been Catholic? We're like with you guys for the most part. Maybe just be like, hey, come in. Like, what questions can we answer? Why are you so secretive? That's what fucking bums me out about it is, again, the Catholic Church doesn't want outsiders to know what's going on. It's like they don't want to know what's going on, but they want to control our politics. I said this wasn't a political podcast, but so many of my presidents have believed that a snake convinced a woman to eat an apple, and that's why childbirth hurts. So I'm a little bit against the Catholic Church, especially because they hurt lots of innocent people, ruin people for life. Therapy would not be needed in America if the Catholic Church was not present in the United States. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is therapists should be thankful that the Catholic Church exists because they guarantee that they will always have clients. Okay. Willy Wonka, child abuse. Okay, cool. So you guys have a really good week. Again, I hope you're enjoying the new format. If you made it to this part of the episode, you fucking rock for real. Thanks for listening to the whole thing. As of this moment in time that I'm recording this, I'm hoping that I have changed the intro song. I had an idea that I liked. We'll see what happens. Maybe I didn't. If I didn't, expect it next week. Maybe I did and YouTube took it down. So if there's weird silence at the beginning, then you know what happened. I should probably put something at the beginning of this actual video saying that, but I have an idea coming up and I'm excited for it. But hope you guys are doing good. I'll let you know how the week goes. I hope your week goes great. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the All Moments Eternally Nice podcast.